The path to becoming your strongest self starts when you stop making excuses and start making progress. Eliminate your weaker self by doing what scares you and pushing forward anyway. Do you ever feel like you're not living up to your full potential? Like something inside is holding you back from the success you know you're capable of? That's your weaker self, and it's time to eliminate it. In this video, we're going to dive into how you can stop making excuses, push past your fears, and start taking bold action toward becoming the strongest version of yourself. If you're ready to face the challenges that have been holding you back and take control of your life, stay with me. Let's unlock your true potential and start building the life you deserve today. Number 1, face your fears and do it anyway today. Take a moment and ask yourself this one question. What have you been avoiding because it makes you uncomfortable? What thought have you pushed aside because it brings pressure? What decision are you putting off because it feels too heavy or uncertain? That hesitation you feel is a clue. It's pointing right at the part of you that needs to grow. Most people don't want to look at it. It's easier to scroll through your phone, easier to stay busy, easier to say it's not the right time. But the truth is, the right time is now, and the thing you're avoiding is the very thing that could set you free. Fear likes to hide behind logic. It pretends to be reason. It says maybe you should wait until you're more prepared. Maybe it's smarter to play it safe. Maybe now's not the best time. And if you're not careful, you'll agree with it. You'll convince yourself that delay is wisdom. But deep down, you know it's not. Deep down, you know you're shrinking. You're stepping back. And every time you do that, you give away your power. You trade progress for comfort. The only way you become stronger is by walking straight into the things you don't feel ready for. You take control of your life, not when everything is easy, but when you choose to do what's hard. Not someday, but today. When you stop letting fear have the final say and start listening to the part of you that wants more. The part of you that's hungry for progress, for impact, for change. Doing it anyway doesn't mean ignoring fear. It means recognizing it and choosing to move anyway. It's not about being fearless. It's about being determined. It's about knowing what you want and understanding that fear will always try to block the path to it. But that's okay, because now you know how to respond. You move anyway. You move with clarity. You move with purpose. Every single time you take action in the face of fear, you build proof. Not for others. For yourself. You build real evidence that you can handle more than you thought. You silence the voice that says you're not capable. And the more evidence you build, the more you trust yourself. You stop questioning your worth. You stop overthinking every step, because you've already shown yourself what you're made of. The difference between those who succeed and those who stay stuck isn't talent or luck. It's the ability to take action when it feels hard. It's the choice to keep going when it would be easier to turn around. It's the willingness to look fear in the eye and walk forward anyway. That's the edge. That's where growth lives, right at the point where most people stop. If you want to rise above average, you have to be willing to do what most won't. You can start small. You don't have to fix everything at once, but you do need to begin. Pick one thing that matters, something you've been putting off, and do it. Today, not because it's comfortable, but because it's necessary. Because action is how you regain control. It's how you stop feeling stuck. When you act, you stop being a prisoner of your thoughts and start becoming the person who makes things happen. When fear tells you to wait, you move forward. When it says you're not ready, you take the next step. When it tells you to avoid risk, you remind yourself that staying the same is the biggest risk of all. Because nothing changes if you don't act. No dream gets closer if you keep waiting. And no progress is made if you stay in place. Facing fear doesn't mean everything works out right away. It doesn't guarantee instant success, but it guarantees growth. It guarantees that you'll be stronger than you were yesterday, and that strength will carry you. It'll shape how you think, how you act, and how you lead your life. That's how you build momentum. One hard decision at a time. One bold move after another. You were not made to hide. You were made to rise. You were built for challenge. Built for pressure, built for something greater than staying the same. But none of that shows up until you start. until you stop putting things off and start acting like your future depends on what you do today. Because it does. Nobody else is coming to eliminate your weaker self. That's your job. That's your responsibility. And it starts with one decision. One moment where you say, I'm done waiting. I'm done letting fear lead. I'm done putting my life on hold because I don't feel ready. From this point on, I do the things that matter. I take the actions that move me forward. I face what I've been avoiding and I do it now. Progress doesn't come from perfect timing. It comes from committed action. It comes from doing the uncomfortable things because they matter. The growth you want isn't hidden. It's just on the other side of the choices you're avoiding. And you know what those are. You know what needs to change. You've known for a while, and now you have a choice. You can keep giving your weaker self control, or you can take it back. You can start doing the things that challenge you, that stretch you, that force you to level up. Because that's what this is about. Not just feeling better, not just being more productive, but becoming someone you respect. Someone who moves forward no matter what. Someone who does what matters. Whether it's easy or not, your life is shaped by the things you do today, not the things you plan to do someday. So stop waiting. Stop planning for perfect. Choose courage now. Choose movement now. Face the discomfort. Do the thing you've been running from. Give yourself the gift of momentum, of real confidence. Not the kind that comes from words, but the kind that comes from action. This is how you grow. This is how you get strong. By showing up when it's hard. By staying committed when it's not convenient. By doing what matters even when you feel like quitting. Your stronger self is already in you. But it only comes alive when you move. When you stop overthinking. When you take full responsibility. When you do what needs to be done without delay. So do it today. Not tomorrow. Not later. Today decide who you want to be. And take one step in that direction. Fear won't disappear. But it will shrink every time you face it. Every time you act. Every time you stop backing down. And start showing up. Number 2. Destroy your excuses by taking bold daily action. Excuses are not just words. They are decisions. Every time you say, I don't have time, or I'll start tomorrow, you are choosing to stay the same. And the longer you keep choosing that, the easier it becomes. That's how people lose years of their life. One excuse at a time. The problem isn't the challenge. The problem is what you allow yourself to believe when it gets uncomfortable. The truth is, excuses feel safe, but they steal everything that matters. Your goals, your self-respect, your momentum. You can't build a strong life on the back of weak reasons. What changes everything is action. Not once in a while, not when it's easy, but every single day, bold daily action. The kind that says, no more waiting, no more hiding, no more justifying. That's how you eliminate excuses. You prove they aren't true. You don't argue with them. You don't try to make them go away. You override them. You take control by taking action. Some people spend their whole lives trying to get rid of doubt and fear before they start. But you don't have time for that. You're not here to make your excuses more comfortable. You're here to outgrow them. And the only way you do that is by moving forward every single day, no matter what story your mind is telling you. Action has power, even small action. When you do something you've been avoiding, even for 10 minutes, you build momentum. You tell your brain, I am someone who moves. And that identity, that belief, it's what changes your life. Because once you see yourself as someone who acts boldly, excuses lose their voice. They don't go away, they just stop leading. Every excuse you have is built on comfort. I don't have time really means it's not a priority. I'm too tired really means I don't want to feel discomfort. And once you get honest about that, you see the solution. The antidote to excuses isn't more motivation. It's discipline. It's deciding that your goals are worth more than your comfort. You will not always feel like it. That's the point. Bold action isn't about how you feel. It's about what you've committed to. You act not because it's easy, but because it's aligned with who you want to become. You stop waiting for the right mood and start moving because it's the right choice. That's how you become unstoppable. You stop needing everything to feel perfect before you act. Every day, you're making choices that shape your future. And if you aren't acting boldly, you're shrinking slowly. Excuses feel small at first. They feel harmless. But over time, they build walls around you. They trap you in patterns that make you feel powerless. And the only way to tear those walls down is by doing the opposite of what your excuses want. They want delay. You give them urgency. They want hesitation. You give them boldness. Bold daily action means you show up even when nobody's watching. You keep the promises you make to yourself even when it's hard. You stop negotiating with your mind and start leading it. Because if you don't lead your mind, your excuses will. And they will take you exactly where you don't want to go. Back to the same cycle you're trying to break. What does bold action look like? It's setting the alarm and actually getting up when it rings. It's showing up to the gym when your body says no. It's making the call you've been avoiding. It's writing the page, sending the email, speaking the truth, taking the step. Not big things all at once, but real things. Every day. That's what adds up. That's what transforms a person from average to powerful. Excuses are convincing. They sound logical. That's why they're dangerous. You've worked hard. You can take today off. You'll do it tomorrow when you're more rested. That kind of thinking is a trap. You don't destroy it with logic. You destroy it with movement. You respond with action. You train your brain that you don't follow excuses anymore. You follow standards. You follow what's right, not what's easy. You will never look back and feel proud of the days you listened to excuses, but you will always feel proud of the days you moved forward anyway. You may not always get it perfect. You may fall. You may struggle. But none of that matters if you keep moving. Progress doesn't belong to the perfect. It belongs to the bold. Bold action rewires your mind. It strengthens your will. It creates clarity. When you're stuck in excuses, life feels cloudy. You question everything. But when you act, when you move, you gain focus. You gain confidence. Because confidence is earned through action. You can't think your way into belief. You have to prove it to yourself through effort. People wait for motivation. But motivation comes from action, not the other way around. When you act, even when it's hard, you start to feel more capable, more alive, more in control. That's the real power. That's what breaks the cycle of starting and stopping. You stop asking how you feel and start asking what needs to be done. When you start taking bold daily action, the world around you changes. People notice. Opportunities open up. Your energy shifts. Not because the world is different, but because you are. You're not waiting anymore. You're moving. You're living with intention. And that alone separates you from most. So from this moment forward, no more waiting for the perfect time. No more making excuses sound wise. No more giving your power away to later. Today is your opportunity. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Today you don't need a full plan. You need to move. Take one meaningful action. Right now. Not something easy. Something real. Something that challenges the weaker part of you. That's how you grow. That's how you lead your life. Every day is a chance to destroy your excuses. Not by thinking. By doing. Not by hoping. By showing up. This is how strong people are made. One bold choice at a time. You don't wait for change. You cause it. And it begins with action. Today, again tomorrow. And every day after that, until the excuses no longer run your life, because your actions do. That's the edge. That's the way forward. Act boldly, daily, consistently. Not because it's easy, but because it's right. Because the person you want to become is already in you, and they're waiting for you to move. Number 3, train your mind to reject negative self-talk fast. You hear that voice in your head more than any other. And the way it speaks to you shapes the way you live. When it lifts you up, you rise. When it tears you down, you hesitate. You retreat. You shrink. That voice becomes your guide, if you let it. And if it's filled with doubt and negativity, it will quietly sabotage every move you make. That's why learning to reject negative self-talk is not optional. It's essential. Because if you don't train your mind, it will default to old fears, bad habits, and untrue beliefs. You weren't born doubting yourself. You learned it. Somewhere along the way, you picked up thoughts like, I'm not enough, I'll fail again, I don't have what it takes. Those thoughts are not facts. They're habits. And like any habit, they can be broken, but not by ignoring them. You break them by meeting them head on and challenging them in the moment they appear. The faster you do that, the faster you take back your mind. Most people live their lives listening to every thought as if it's truth. But just because your mind says something doesn't mean you have to accept it. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who decides which thoughts you act on. That's the difference between a trained mind and a reactive one. A reactive mind runs wild. A trained mind recognizes negative patterns and chooses better ones immediately. The first step is awareness. You can't change what you don't notice. So when that voice starts whispering things like, you're not good enough, pause, catch it, look at it like an observer. Ask, is that helping me right now? If the answer is no, reject it. Not later, not after you've let it ruin your day. Reject it now. Your mind can be your greatest ally or your worst enemy depending on what you allow. The thoughts you give attention to are the ones that grow. So if you give your focus to fear, doubt, and shame, those become the loudest voices. But if you give your energy to thoughts of effort, growth, and possibility, your mindset starts to shift. You train your mind the same way you train your body, with consistency, with repetition, and with urgency. Negative self-talk is sneaky. It shows up when you're tired, when you've made a mistake, when something doesn't go your way. It creeps in quietly and makes you question yourself. That's when you have to respond fast. Not with anger, with leadership. You don't let that voice take control. You step in. You replace it. You say, that thought doesn't serve me. I choose another. This is not about fake positivity. It's about power. You're not lying to yourself. You're choosing the truth that moves you forward instead of the lie that keeps you small. When your mind says, you always mess this up, you say, no. I've failed before, but I've also learned and grown. I'm not finished. When your mind says, you're not ready, you say, I may not feel ready, but I'm taking action anyway. That's how you build mental strength. Not by avoiding the negative, but by refusing to believe it. Every time you reject a limiting thought, you weaken its grip. You interrupt the old pattern. And if you do that enough, the voice changes. It becomes quieter, less convincing, less automatic. You start to feel something different. Not just hope, but control. Not just motivation, but momentum. Because now, instead of letting your thoughts run you, you are running your thoughts. Start treating your mind like the valuable space it is. Don't let every opinion or doubt take up residence there. Be strict about what you allow to stay. Guard it the same way you would guard something precious. Because your future depends on the quality of your inner world. If your thoughts are full of discouragement, your actions will reflect it. If they're full of focus, confidence, and intention, that's what your life will mirror back. Some people think strength is about never having negative thoughts, but that's not true. Strength is having the discipline to notice the thought and choose something better. It's having the presence to say, that's not who I am anymore, and move forward anyway. You train this skill the same way you build any discipline, by doing it daily. You don't wait until life feels perfect. You practice it in the little moments. When you wake up and your mind tells you to skip the gym, you speak back. When you make a mistake and your mind starts attacking your worth, you interrupt it. You give yourself the same encouragement you'd give someone you care about, and you do it without delay. Training your mind is a daily commitment. You do it through journaling, reflection, affirmations, and most of all, action. Every time you act in a way that proves your worth, your mind takes notice. Every time you choose courage over self-doubt, that becomes your new identity. You stop needing constant reassurance because your own actions become the evidence of who you really are. The stronger your mind becomes, the faster you bounce back. You don't dwell. You don't spiral. You respond. You lead. You take control of your inner world so your outer world reflects it. That's what successful people do. They feel the fear, but they don't obey it. They hear the doubt, but they don't feed it. They train their thoughts the same way an athlete trains their body, with precision, with intensity, and with purpose. And the beautiful thing is this: you can start right now. You don't need anyone's permission. You don't need to wait until you feel strong. You begin with the next thought. You catch it. You challenge it. You replace it. You remind yourself who you are and what you're building. And you keep doing it until that becomes your default response. You are not weak because your mind gives you resistance. You are strong because you've decided not to live by it anymore. That's what separates the ones who rise from the ones who stay stuck. It's not talent. It's not background. It's mental discipline. It's the daily decision to stop giving power to thoughts that don't deserve it. You can either repeat the same patterns, or you can train your mind to break them. But you can't do both. Choose which version of yourself you want leading the way. And then back it up with thought, word, and action. No delay. No negotiation. The life you want won't come from comfort. It will come from a trained and focused mind. So train it like everything depends on it, because it does. Number 4. Wake up early and own the first hour daily. The way you begin your day is one of the most important decisions you'll ever make. That first hour sets the direction of your mind, your energy, and your focus. If you wake up late, rush around, check your phone, and jump into distractions, you've already given your power away. You've handed control of your life to everything outside of you before even claiming your own attention. But if you wake up early and own the first hour, something powerful happens. You begin to lead your day instead of react to it. There is something sacred about those early hours. The world is quieter. There are fewer demands, fewer messages, fewer opinions. That time is yours, undivided, unclaimed, and full of potential. And most people throw it away. They waste it by staying in bed. They snooze, they scroll, they delay. But the people who rise before the world starts pulling at them, they begin their day with purpose. They decide what matters before the noise starts shouting. Waking up early is not just about getting up. It's about claiming responsibility for how you live. It's about saying, I'm not waiting for motivation, I'm starting with discipline. Because motivation is unpredictable. Discipline is a decision. You get up because your life matters. You rise because your goals deserve attention. You move because staying in bed doesn't get you anywhere. The first hour is your foundation. It's your reset, and if you use it with intention, you train your mind to operate from clarity, not chaos. You can reflect. You can move your body. You can feed your mind with truth, not noise. You can plan. You can prepare. And most of all, you can lead yourself before the world has a chance to distract you. When you win the first hour, you build confidence. You show yourself that you're in control. You follow through on your word. You don't need to check your notifications to feel alive. You don't need to start the day in stress or panic. You lead with presence, not pressure. It doesn't have to be complicated. You don't need a perfect routine. You need intention. Wake up, sit in stillness, breathe, move, stretch, hydrate, write, think, read something that builds you, not something that drains you. Speak truth into your day before the doubt can speak first. That's what it means to own your first hour. You decide what enters your mind, and you protect that space like it matters. Because it does. You may not control everything that happens in your life, but you always control how you begin your day. And if you choose to start with strength, you face the rest of the day with more power. You're not reactive. You're anchored. You've already done something for yourself. You've already kept a promise. That inner momentum carries you through challenge, stress, and temptation. Most people are chasing time all day because they didn't lead the first part of it. They fall behind before they even begin. But when you wake up early and take that time seriously, you stop living in survival mode. You stop rushing. You stop blaming the clock. You begin to lead your life from the first breath of the day. This isn't about being a morning person. It's about becoming a focused person, a self-led person, a person who doesn't let life happen to them. They happen to life. Because once you learn how to lead your mornings, everything else begins to shift. Your days feel more aligned. Your thinking becomes clearer. Your energy becomes more stable. That's not luck. That's structure. That's intention. You can't build a strong future on the habits of someone who delays the day. You build it by rising, by acting, by moving before your mind talks you out of it. There is so much growth in that first hour, but only if you're awake to use it. The people who take charge of their lives don't wait until the afternoon to take themselves seriously. They start from the moment they open their eyes. If the first thing you reach for in the morning is your phone, ask yourself why. Why are you giving away your attention before you've even decided who you want to be today? Why are you letting someone else's agenda enter your mind before you've grounded yourself? That habit might feel small, but it adds up. It makes you reactive. It fills your mind with noise, and you carry that noise into everything else. Start replacing those habits with ones that build clarity. Take that time for yourself. Don't wait until you're burned out to realize you need space. Don't wait for a crisis to start taking your mind seriously. Your first hour is your chance to reset your focus. It's your chance to remember what matters, to remind yourself who you are, to move with intention. That is not a luxury, it's a necessity. You'll have days where it's hard to get up. Your mind will say just 5 more minutes. That's when you train it. That's when you say, no, I lead this day. That voice that wants to keep you in bed. That voice doesn't care about your goals. It only cares about comfort. And comfort is not what builds greatness. Action does. Ownership does. The first hour doesn't belong to your problems. It doesn't belong to the opinions of others. It belongs to you. And what you do with it is a reflection of what you value. If you use it with intention, you are saying, my time matters. My energy matters. My growth matters. That is the mindset of someone who is going somewhere. This one decision, to rise early and own that first hour, can change your life. Not instantly, but steadily. It builds mental strength. It sharpens your focus. It reminds you that you are in control of your time, not the other way around. That kind of discipline creates freedom. Because when you lead your mornings, you're not running from life. You're ready for it. So take your mornings seriously. Protect them. Structure them. Make them yours. Start with clarity, not confusion. Start with strength, not stress. The person who leads their first hour is a person who takes their future seriously. And that kind of person, they don't wait for life to change. They make it happen. This is your edge. Use it. Wake up early. Lead your mind. Own your energy. Start your day with intention and finish it with pride. That's how real change begins. One morning at a time. Number 5. Cut toxic habits that weaken your inner power. There comes a point in your growth where progress demands sacrifice. Not everything can go with you to the next level. Some things must be left behind. Not because you're better than them, but because they're holding you back from becoming better than you were. And nothing slows a strong person faster than the habits that quietly steal their energy, focus, and self-respect. Toxic habits don't always look harmful at first, but over time they chip away at your discipline, your confidence, your purpose. If you want to strengthen your inner power, you must be willing to cut them out with urgency. You know the habits I'm talking about, the ones that feel good for a moment but leave you drained afterward. Scrolling endlessly, complaining about things you won't change, skipping the work you said mattered, speaking to yourself with judgment, comparing yourself to people who are not even on your path. These are not harmless behaviors. These are patterns that weaken your core. Every time you choose a habit that doesn't align with your values, you lose a piece of your personal power, not because the habit is stronger than you, but because you allowed it to take the lead. That's how the weaker self wins, through repetition and permission. And the only way to take your power back is through decision and action. Cutting toxic habits starts with being honest with yourself, not with shame, with clarity. Ask yourself, what are the habits that leave me feeling weaker instead of stronger? If it brings anxiety, distraction, or regret, it's not serving you. If it makes you numb instead of alive, it's not helping you grow. Identify it, own it, then commit to replacing it with something that builds you. You can't just stop a bad habit and expect things to change. You need to fill that space with something intentional. If you cut out complaining, replace it with gratitude. If you stop procrastinating, Fill that space with one clear task. If you walk away from mindless entertainment, replace it with learning or creating. The goal isn't just to remove, it's to upgrade. Your mind and body adapt to what you feed them. Feed them weakness, and weakness becomes your normal. Feed them strength, and strength becomes your identity. The danger with toxic habits is that they often feel small, but the small things repeated daily shape your future far more than the big things you do occasionally. And when you accept even one weak pattern, it creates room for more. Every time you choose to break a toxic habit, even once, you train your brain to follow a different path. You remind yourself that you're not here to live on autopilot. You're here to lead yourself. That's what personal power is. It's not about being perfect. It's about being aware, being intentional, and being disciplined enough to change what's no longer helping you. You don't need to overhaul your whole life at once. Start with one habit, one pattern, one behavior that you know has been quietly stealing your energy. Maybe it's hitting snooze 10 times. Maybe it's speaking negatively about yourself in your mind. Maybe it's spending time with people who drain your spirit. Whatever it is, call it out. Then take one clear step to shift it. Cutting toxic habits is not a punishment. It's a path to freedom. It's a sign that you value yourself enough to stop living beneath your potential. And when you remove those habits, you don't just create space. You unlock new energy. You think more clearly. You move with more purpose. You make decisions faster. You start seeing what you're actually capable of when you're not tied down by your own cycles. This is not easy work. It requires courage. It takes effort to look at yourself without excuses. But that's how growth begins. That's how leaders are made. You face the parts of yourself that are not serving you, and you choose something better, again and again until it becomes second nature. You don't need to wait for rock bottom to change. You don't need another breakdown to wake up. You can decide now, right here. You can look at the habits you've been carrying and say, I'm done letting this steal from me. And then you act like it. You put structure in place. You hold yourself accountable. You replace weakness with strength, consistently. That's how self-respect is built, not with words, with decisions. Every time you choose a better action when the old habit calls your name, you build confidence. You prove to yourself that you are capable of leading your life with purpose instead of being led by impulse. That creates pride. That fuels momentum. This isn't about being harsh on yourself. It's about being real. You can't protect your inner power if you keep protecting habits that weaken it. There's no growth in pretending something is okay when you know it's not. Growth comes from making a new standard. A standard that says, I no longer accept anything in my life that takes more than it gives. Start by watching your patterns. Observe what you do when you feel tired, overwhelmed, or bored. Do you retreat into comfort, or do you rise with responsibility? Your habits in those small moments are shaping who you become. If you want to be powerful, you need habits that make you powerful. Habits that require focus, effort, and integrity. You may not feel like cutting the habit, but you don't have to feel like it to do it. You just need to decide that your future matters more than your comfort. That one decision, to act in spite of how you feel, is the beginning of real freedom. You stop letting your moods run your life. You stop waiting for the perfect time. You act because it's the right thing for who you want to become. There is something waiting for you on the other side of those toxic patterns. Clarity, strength, peace. But you have to go through the discomfort to get to it. You have to be willing to feel the pull of the old habit and say, not this time. That's how change starts. Not tomorrow, not someday, right now. With one bold decision to stop giving energy to what drains you. Your inner power doesn't come from outside approval. It comes from doing the hard things that most won't do. It comes from telling yourself the truth, and then living like it matters. It comes from knowing that every time you act with discipline, you're building a version of yourself that can't be shaken. So today, choose to cut what's not serving you, not out of guilt, out of commitment. Because the life you want isn't waiting at the end of your excuses. It's waiting behind your willingness to let go of what no longer belongs. Choose the habits that match the strength you say you want, and walk away from everything else. You're not here to play small. You're here to lead. So lead yourself with power, and watch how fast everything else begins to follow. Number 6. Speak truth to yourself and stop hiding behind doubt. If you want to grow, if you want to lead, if you want to take control of your life, you have to start telling yourself the truth. No more lies. No more pretending. No more hiding behind uncertainty. Doubt is the voice that shows up when you don't believe in yourself enough to be honest. And if you keep hiding behind it, you'll never become who you're capable of being. The first step to real change is self-honesty. Without that, nothing else matters. Speak truth to yourself, even when it's hard to hear, especially when it's hard to hear, because that truth is the doorway to growth. When you tell yourself the truth, you wake up, you see what you've been avoiding. You confront what you've been ignoring, and you start taking responsibility for what you've been letting slide. Too many people say they're confused, that they don't know what to do. But deep down, they know what they're not doing. They know what they keep putting off. They know the conversations they're avoiding, the habits they're protecting, the fears they let drive their choices. It's not that they don't know, it's that they're not ready to be honest. But you cannot create a strong life based on denial. You can't move forward while pretending you're fine where you are. And you can't access real power while hiding from the truth. The truth is what sets the foundation. It's what brings you clarity. It gives you a real place to start from. And you need that if you're going to lead yourself out of where you are and into where you belong. It takes courage to admit the truth. It takes maturity to say, I'm the one holding myself back. But that's where all your strength is. It's in owning your part without excuses. It's in looking at your patterns, your choices, your mindset, and saying, this is what I need to change. That's how real transformation starts. Doubt wants to keep you small. It tells you to wait, to hold back, to be careful, to not take risks. But the truth tells you something else. The truth tells you that you've been playing safe, that you've been dimming your light, that you've let fear disguise itself as logic. And when you start listening to that truth, you realize just how much more you're capable of. This is not about being hard on yourself. It's about being honest enough to rise. Self-respect begins when you stop pretending things are okay when they're not. You don't fix what you won't face, and you won't face anything if you keep using doubt as your shield. Every time you tell yourself, I'm not ready, or I'm not good enough, ask yourself, is that really true? Or is that fear trying to protect comfort? You don't need perfect confidence to move forward. You need honesty, because when you admit where you are and what you want, you can start building a bridge between the two. It's easier to blame the outside world, easier to point fingers, easier to wait for the right timing. But nothing changes until you look inward and tell the truth about what you're allowing, what you're avoiding, and what you're capable of. Start asking yourself better questions. Not why can't I? But what am I not facing yet? Not what if I fail? But what am I not doing that I know I should be doing? Those questions cut through the noise. They bring you face to face with the only person who can really change your life. If you've been stuck, it's not because you're not smart enough or talented enough. It's because you haven't been honest about your patterns. You've convinced yourself that staying the same is safer. But it's not. What's dangerous is staying stuck in a version of yourself that you've outgrown. What's risky is wasting time pretending you don't know what to do next. You do know. You've just been waiting for something outside of you to give you permission. But the only permission you need is the one you give yourself when you stop lying about your limits. Tell yourself the truth. You are capable. You are resourceful. You are responsible for how you show up. And the moment you take that seriously, things begin to shift. You don't need to announce your growth to the world. You need to live it. You need to make daily decisions that reflect your truth. You need to act on what you know, instead of waiting for clarity to find you. Clarity comes through action. Confidence comes through doing. Truth comes from the decision to stop lying to yourself. You know what makes you feel strong. You know what drains you. You know what you've been tolerating that you no longer want in your life. Be honest about that. Speak it, write it, confront it, not with guilt, but with courage. That's where freedom starts. You don't need to fix everything today, but you do need to stop hiding behind stories that don't serve you. The story that says you're too late. The story that says you're not ready. The story that says you'll change someday. Stop hiding behind those. You're not a victim of your own life. You're the author of it. And authors don't wait to feel inspired. They write the next chapter anyway. When doubt shows up, don't fight it. Listen to it. Then speak louder. Speak your truth. Tell yourself, I know what I want. I know what I've allowed. And I know it's time to rise. That voice of truth inside you. It's been quiet because you've been listening to fear. But it's still there, waiting for you to give it the mic again. Your life becomes powerful when you start living aligned with what you know is right. Not what's easy, not what's comfortable, but what's true. And that starts with speaking the truth to yourself. Every single day, even when it's inconvenient. You don't need more time. You need more truth. Because truth brings clarity, and clarity brings power. And when you operate from power, you stop needing validation. You stop waiting for signs. You stop drifting. You start building. You start leading. You start becoming someone that even your past self would be proud of. So speak truth. Speak it when it's uncomfortable. Speak it when it costs you old habits. Speak it when it means starting over. That truth will give you the strength to stop hiding, the wisdom to move forward, and the courage to become everything you were meant to be. You're not here to live in fear. You're not here to wait. You're here to lead. And that starts with a single choice: to tell yourself the truth, and to stop hiding behind anything less. Number 7. Push past comfort and demand more from yourself now. There's a moment in every person's life where comfort becomes the enemy. Not because it feels bad, but because it makes you forget what you're capable of. It tells you, this is good enough. It says, you've done plenty, but deep inside you know you've got more in you. You know you've been holding back. You know you're capable of more focus, more action, more courage. That's the moment you stop settling and start demanding more from yourself. If you want to grow, you have to learn to push past comfort. You have to stop looking for what feels easy and start chasing what builds strength. Most people live their lives avoiding discomfort. They stop when it gets hard. They retreat when it feels unfamiliar. But greatness lives on the other side of that line. You don't find your full potential by doing what feels safe. You find it by doing what stretches you. You've probably had moments where you felt stuck, where nothing seemed to move. That's usually not because the opportunity wasn't there. It's because you didn't demand more from yourself in that moment. You didn't push one step further. You paused. You hesitated. And that's what comfort does. It invites you to pause just long enough to miss the window. But here's the truth. Comfort doesn't care about your goals. It doesn't care about your purpose. It only wants to keep things the same. And if you listen to it long enough, you start shrinking your life to fit what's easy, instead of expanding it to match your true strength. Comfort whispers to you, take a break. Try tomorrow. Play it safe. Growth shouts back, you're better than this. You can do more. You deserve better. And you get to decide which voice you obey. You can either follow the path of least resistance, or you can choose to rise, to demand more even when no one's watching. Think about this. Every breakthrough you've ever had happened when you went one level past what felt possible. When you didn't feel like doing the work, but did it anyway. When you were tired but kept moving. When you had every reason to back out, but you leaned in instead. That's not a coincidence. That's the cost of growth. You will never regret pushing yourself. You will never look back and say, I wish I had played smaller. What you'll regret is the time you lost waiting for motivation, the chances you didn't take, the goals you let collect dust while you waited for things to get easier. But life doesn't wait. It responds to action. And the more you demand from yourself, the more life opens up to meet you there. It starts with small choices. Wake up when you say you will. Show up with full focus, even when you feel distracted. Speak with conviction, even when doubt creeps in. Do one more rep. Make one more call. Stay in the process 5 minutes longer. These may not look like big moments, but they are. Because every time you act with discipline, you build the muscle of self-respect. You've got to stop settling for being good when you know you can be excellent. The people who reach the highest levels of success aren't always the most talented. They're the most relentless. They're the ones who raise their standards and refuse to lower them. They demand more from themselves, and that demand reshapes how they live. Most people don't fail because they're incapable. They fail because they get comfortable. They stop asking more from themselves. They think, "I've done enough." And in that moment they slow down. They start coasting. But coasting only works when you're going downhill. And you weren't made to coast, you were made to climb. When you push past comfort, you prove to yourself that you are not defined by how you feel in the moment. You're defined by what you choose in the face of that feeling. You choose effort over excuses. You choose focus over distraction. You choose growth over ease. This is where your confidence comes from. Not from being praised, but from knowing you did the work. From knowing you gave everything you had. Confidence is built in the moments where you show up with discipline, not in the moments where it's easy. You can't lead yourself to your potential with half effort. You can't live an excellent life with average habits. You can't be proud of yourself if you keep letting comfort dictate your limits. You must decide that enough is enough. That playing small is not an option. That your dreams are worth the discomfort. That your growth is more important than your excuses. Ask yourself right now, what would your life look like if you gave just 20% more effort every day? What would change if you stopped quitting early? What would improve if you demanded excellence in the small things? You already know the answer. Your life would change. Fast. Not because of some big event, but because you finally stopped letting comfort run the show. You don't need anyone's permission to demand more from yourself. You just need to decide that the person you're becoming matters more than the comfort you're leaving behind. You need to look in the mirror and say, "This version of me is temporary. I'm building something greater." And then you need to act like it. You will have days where it's tempting to go back, to relax, to take the easy road. That's normal, but those are the days that define you. That's where character is formed. When you push anyway, when you move through resistance instead of away from it, when you remind yourself that comfort is a liar, and that discipline is the truth. You don't grow by chance. You grow by demand, by holding yourself to a higher standard, no matter how you feel, by showing up for your future self today, not someday, by refusing to settle for anything less than your full potential. So push past the old limits, push through the resistance, push beyond the fear, push away the comfort that's kept you still. Demand more. Not next week. Now. Because the longer you wait, the more time you give your weaker self to take over. And you weren't made to live under your limits. You were made to lead yourself with power, intention, and drive. Comfort will cost you everything you were meant to become. But effort will give you everything you've been hoping to experience. Decide who you want to be, and then demand it from yourself, daily. Because greatness isn't given, it's earned. And it begins the moment you stop making comfort your priority and start making progress your standard.
Number 8. Take responsibility and stop blaming the outside world. Taking responsibility for your life is the most empowering decision you will ever make. It means no more excuses, no more blaming, and no more waiting for someone else to change your circumstances. When you take responsibility, you reclaim your power. You stop being a victim of your environment, your past, or the actions of others. You become the architect of your own future. There's a powerful shift that happens when you stop blaming the outside world for your situation. Suddenly, you realize that you have the ability to change your circumstances, your attitude, and your outcomes. It doesn't matter what's happened to you in the past. It doesn't matter where you've been or who has let you down. What matters is what you do next. And that's entirely up to you. So many people fall into the trap of blaming their problems on external factors. They blame their upbringing, their job, the economy, their parents, their bad luck, or even other people's decisions. They let these external circumstances define who they are and what they can do. But the truth is, none of these things control your future unless you allow them to. The moment you stop blaming the outside world, you gain the freedom to take action. When you start accepting full responsibility for your life,
You step into a place of strength. You stop waiting for someone else to fix things for you. You stop complaining about what you don't have and start looking for solutions. You understand that your choices, no matter how difficult they may be, shape your reality. It's not about what happens to you, it's about how you respond to it. Taking responsibility means you stop looking for shortcuts. You stop blaming the system for your struggles or hoping that someone will come and solve your problems. Instead, you take full ownership of your situation. You stop wishing for the perfect conditions and start making the best of what you have. You stop wasting energy pointing fingers and start channeling that energy into positive action. This doesn't mean that everything will be easy. Taking responsibility doesn't mean you suddenly get everything you want with no effort. It simply means that you stop waiting for things to change on their own. You realize that you can create your own opportunities by taking consistent, focused action. It means that no matter what happens, you will always have control over how you respond, how hard you work, and how much you give. And that is where your power lies. When you shift from blaming to taking responsibility, you stop making excuses. Excuses are the enemies of growth. They hold you back and justify your inaction. Excuses allow you to stay comfortable in your current situation because they give you a reason to avoid change. But when you take responsibility, you no longer have the luxury of excuses. You have no choice but to face the truth and take action. It's easy to blame other people or circumstances when things go wrong. It's easy to feel like the world is against you, that life is unfair, but that kind of thinking keeps you stuck. It keeps you powerless. It takes away your ability to change anything. The truth is, life is not fair, and it never will be. Bad things happen to good people, and not everything is within your control. But your response, that's something you have control over. Your mindset, your choices, your effort, these are all within your power. Once you embrace responsibility, everything changes. You stop being a victim. You stop seeing yourself as a passenger in your own life. You stop allowing the external world to dictate your emotional state. Instead, you take the wheel. You stop waiting for others to act and start doing what you need to do. You make the decision every single day to move toward the life you want. Responsibility means you take ownership of your actions, your words, and your results. It means you stop shifting the blame to others. It means when things go wrong, instead of looking for someone to blame, you look for what you can do differently next time. You learn from mistakes. You learn from failures. You learn from challenges. Every setback becomes an opportunity to grow stronger, wiser, and more capable. The power of responsibility is that it shifts you from a place of helplessness to a place of control. When you stop blaming the outside world, you stop giving away your power. You stop giving other people or circumstances the authority to dictate how you feel or what you do. You start owning your decisions, your thoughts, and your actions, and you take pride in that ownership. Think about the times you've faced setbacks or challenges in your life. It's easy to look at those situations and blame something external. But the reality is, we all face challenges. We all experience moments of hardship. What separates those who move forward from those who stay stuck is how they respond to these situations. The ones who take responsibility don't dwell on what went wrong. They don't waste time blaming. They move forward with a focus on what they can control and how they can improve. Imagine a life where you stop blaming anything or anyone for your circumstances. Imagine a life where you understand that the only person who can change your future is you. Imagine the freedom that comes with realizing that no matter what happens, you have the power to choose how you respond. This is the life of responsibility. It's the life where you are the creator, not the victim. Taking responsibility also means letting go of the need for validation. When you rely on other people's opinions or circumstances to define your self-worth, you give them control over your life. You give away your power. But when you take responsibility for yourself, you stop needing outside validation. You trust yourself. You understand that your worth is not determined by the approval of others. You know that you have the ability to create your own success, regardless of what anyone else thinks. The road to success is paved with responsibility. The more responsibility you take, the more freedom you gain.
You free yourself from the limitations of excuses. You free yourself from the need to control others or the world around you. You free yourself to focus on what you can do, what you can change, and how you can improve. This is the path to growth. No one is coming to save you. There is no knight in shining armor, no magical solution that will make everything better. The only person who can change your life is you, and that change begins when you stop blaming and start taking responsibility. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop hoping that someone else will solve your problems. Step up and take responsibility for your life. The sooner you do, the sooner you'll realize the power you have to create the life you want.
Number 9. Build discipline by doing what you avoid daily. Building discipline starts with doing the things you avoid. Every day we encounter tasks, challenges, and actions that we resist. These are the things that seem uncomfortable or demanding. It could be the workout you've been skipping, the important conversation you've been putting off, or that project you keep procrastinating on. These are the exact moments where discipline is built. The more you push through what you want to avoid, the stronger your self-discipline becomes. Discipline is not a natural trait for most people. It's something you develop through consistent action, especially in the areas that challenge you the most. You won't build discipline by sticking to the easy, comfortable tasks that come naturally. You build it by facing the things you would rather not do, by showing up even when you don't feel like it, and by continuing to take action despite your resistance. Discipline is the bridge between where you are now and where you want to be, and it's formed in those moments where you push yourself to do what feels difficult or uncomfortable. Think about it. The things you avoid are often the areas where growth lies. Avoiding difficult conversations, avoiding hard work, avoiding discomfort, that's where your potential is locked away. When you consistently do what you avoid, you break the cycle of fear and resistance. You prove to yourself that you can take control of your actions no matter how difficult it might seem. The key is to realize that avoiding these things only weakens you in the long run. The more you avoid, the more power you give to fear, uncertainty, and procrastination. But the more you face those things head on, the more you strip away their control over you. It all comes down to action. Discipline is not about what you think or feel, it's about what you do. It's about deciding that you're going to push yourself every single day, regardless of the emotions or resistance that try to hold you back. Every time you face something you've been avoiding and follow through, you build a little more discipline. It's like exercising a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Take a moment to consider the things you've been putting off in your life. What tasks make you feel uneasy? What situations do you avoid because they make you uncomfortable? What do you find yourself procrastinating on, day after day? Now think about what would happen if you started facing those tasks daily. What if instead of running away from them you showed up and took action? What if you made it a habit to tackle those uncomfortable things first? That's how you build discipline. One of the most important things you can do is identify what you're avoiding and why. Most of the time we avoid things because we fear the outcome, or we feel overwhelmed by how big or difficult they seem. We think we need to be in the right mood, or that we need a perfect time to get started. But the truth is, there will never be a perfect moment. There will never be a time when you feel 100% motivated or ready. The key to building discipline is to start now, regardless of how you feel. The more you do this, the less control those fears or feelings will have over you. You'll start acting first, and only then will your feelings catch up. Let's take an example. You know that working out is good for you, but there are days when you'd rather stay in bed or skip your routine. What you avoid is often the very thing you need most. If you want to build discipline, don't wait for the perfect moment to work out. Make it a priority and do it first thing in the morning, even if you don't feel like it. As you keep doing it consistently, that resistance starts to fade. What was once difficult becomes a habit. The same goes for any other area of your life. Business, relationships, finances, personal growth. The more you do what you avoid, the more discipline you build. At first it will feel uncomfortable. You'll feel the resistance trying to pull you back into your comfort zone. But that's exactly when you need to push the hardest. The magic happens when you decide to act in spite of the discomfort. You learn to reframe your thinking and stop seeing discomfort as something to avoid. Instead, you begin to see it as a sign that you're growing, that you're developing the strength to push past limits. Every time you overcome that resistance, you build momentum. You get stronger not just physically, but mentally as well. The road to discipline is not about perfection. It's about consistency. You're not going to always get it right. Some days you'll slip. Some days you'll fall back into old habits. That's normal. What matters is getting back up and continuing to push through the things you've been avoiding. If you can make it through the toughest days, if you can show up and do what you've been avoiding on those days, you will find that the discomfort no longer holds as much power over you. Discipline is about doing what you know you need to do, even when you don't feel like it. And the only way to strengthen this muscle is by facing the things you avoid and doing them anyway. Over time, this consistency builds a foundation of discipline that becomes unshakable. Your ability to act in spite of discomfort becomes automatic. You no longer have to convince yourself to get started, because you've trained your mind and body to take action no matter what. As you start making a habit of doing what you avoid, you'll find that things that once seemed impossible or overwhelming become part of your routine. You'll look back and realize that the resistance you felt in the beginning was simply a mental barrier. The more you push against that barrier, the weaker it becomes. You start to realize that most of what you avoid is not as big or as hard as it seemed in your mind. You've trained yourself to take action, and now action is your new default. The key to building discipline is not to focus on the task at hand, but on the habit you're creating. It's not about being perfect. It's about showing up and doing the work. It's about doing what's uncomfortable, what's difficult, and what you've been avoiding, because that's where growth happens. Once you make this a part of your daily life, discipline will become your second nature. You will act without hesitation, without excuses, and without delay. And that's when your potential begins to unfold. To build discipline, start today. Identify what you're avoiding and commit to doing it. Commit to making the uncomfortable a part of your daily routine. The more you do this, the more you will become the disciplined person you want to be. Step by step, action by action, you will become the person who takes responsibility, who faces challenges head on, and who lives a life of purpose and achievement.
Number 10. Choose strength by doing hard things without hesitation. Strength is not something that's granted to you. It's something you choose every day through the actions you take, especially when you're faced with challenges. It's the ability to step up when things get difficult, to make the decision to push forward, even when your mind is telling you to stop. True strength comes not from avoiding difficulty, but from embracing it, from facing hard things head on without hesitation. The moment you decide to do hard things without hesitation is the moment you take control of your destiny. Strength is not a matter of waiting for the easy path or hoping for circumstances to improve. Strength is about choosing to face what others would avoid, choosing to rise to the occasion when others would shrink back. Every challenge you encounter is an opportunity to build your strength. Every hard thing you face is a chance to show yourself just how strong you can be. When you hesitate, when you hold back, when you wait for the perfect moment, you give away your power. Hesitation is the enemy of progress. It keeps you stuck, trapped in your comfort zone. It convinces you that things are too difficult, too uncertain, and too risky. But the truth is that hesitation is a lie. It tells you that you can't handle the challenge before you, that you're not strong enough. The only way to prove that voice wrong is by choosing to take action in spite of it. Imagine the strength you would have if, instead of waiting or hesitating, you tackled every hard thing without a second thought. Imagine the confidence you would build if you didn't wait for the perfect time to start, but instead just began, even when it was uncomfortable. That's how you build real strength, not by avoiding difficulty, but by choosing to face it. Every time you do something hard, you build resilience. You prove to yourself that you are capable of more than you ever thought possible. Strength comes from action, not from thinking about what's difficult. When you take action, when you step into the discomfort, you break through the mental barriers that tell you to hold back. The more you choose to do hard things without hesitation, the easier it becomes to handle future challenges. It's like building a muscle. The more you lift, the stronger you become. The more you face what's difficult, without hesitation, the more you grow in your ability to handle anything life throws your way.
Many people avoid doing hard things because they're afraid of failure or fear they're not capable of succeeding. But the fear of failure is nothing more than an illusion. Failure is simply a lesson, an opportunity to grow, and it's a necessary part of building strength. If you never face hard things, you'll never have the chance to fail. And if you never fail, you'll never have the opportunity to learn and improve. By doing hard things without hesitation, you learn to embrace failure as part of the journey, not something to fear. Choosing strength means facing discomfort. It means choosing the path that leads to growth even when it feels challenging or uncertain. It's about pushing through resistance, knowing that each step forward, no matter how difficult, is making you stronger. When you make the decision to act without hesitation, you stop letting your fears and doubts control you. You stop second-guessing yourself. You simply take action. In every area of your life, there are hard things waiting for you. Whether it's in your career, your personal development, your health, or your relationships, there will always be challenges that test you. These challenges are opportunities to prove your strength. The more you choose to face them head-on, without hesitation, the more you develop your inner power. You begin to realize that the obstacles you once feared are actually stepping stones to your growth. Every time you choose strength by doing hard things, you build a habit of action. You create a mindset that says, I am capable, I can handle this. The key to building this mindset is consistency. It's about making the choice to act even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's hard. The more often you make that choice, the more it becomes a natural part of who you are. A person who consistently chooses to do hard things is a person who is never defeated. They don't give up when things get tough. They don't allow obstacles to stand in their way. They look at every challenge as an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to strengthen their character. That's the kind of strength that can't be shaken. That's the kind of strength that builds success, not just in one area of life, but across all areas. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that strength comes from some grand achievement, some monumental act of courage. But real strength is built in the everyday decisions. It's built in the small acts of doing what's hard over and over again. It's the decision to keep going when you're tired. It's the decision to keep trying when you don't feel like it. It's the decision to act in spite of your doubts. When you do hard things without hesitation, you stop waiting for motivation to strike. Motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes. But discipline is something you can rely on. The key to choosing strength is not waiting for the right moment or the perfect conditions. The key is to take action now, even if it's difficult. It's about deciding that your goals are worth the discomfort, that your growth is more important than your temporary ease. The power in doing hard things without hesitation is that you stop relying on external circumstances for your strength. You stop waiting for things to be easy. Instead, you become the one who makes things happen. You create your own opportunities by taking bold action, by showing up every day and choosing to be strong, regardless of the obstacles. Your strength is not defined by what's happening around you, but by what you do in response to it. The hardest thing you can do today is often the very thing that will lead to your greatest growth. When you make it a habit to choose strength and tackle hard things head-on, you develop the ability to take on challenges with confidence. You stop seeing challenges as threats and start seeing them as opportunities for improvement. Each time you face difficulty without hesitation, you become more capable, more resilient, and more powerful. True strength is not about avoiding difficulty. It's about deciding to move forward, no matter how hard it may seem. It's about choosing to do the work even when you don't feel like it. Strength is not just about physical power. It's about mental toughness, emotional resilience, and the willingness to do what others are unwilling to do. It's about having the courage to act, even when the outcome is uncertain. Choose strength by doing the hard things today. Don't wait for motivation or the perfect time. Step into the discomfort and take action. The more you do this, the more you'll realize that you have the strength within you to face anything. The harder the task, the greater the reward. And the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. The key is to do it without hesitation, because that's where true strength is born.